Most people walk through this world clinging to a fragile, pathetic hallucination they call an identity. Your rivals, your toxic competitors, the predators who arrogantly try to dominate your space, they believe their confidence is an impenetrable fortress. They are wrong. Underneath their loud, aggressive bravado, they are nothing but a trembling collection of repressed insecurities, unvoiced terrors, and cognitive dissonance, waiting for the right architect to pull the thread. The abyss is already inside them. They simply refuse to look down. To gain absolute leverage over those who wish to destroy you, you do not need to attack their strengths. You merely need to echo their hidden fractures. Welcome to the darkest echelon of psychological warfare, ego-fragmentation. Forget the amateur pedestrian advice of mirroring body language to build rapport. We are not here to make friends with our enemies. We are here to dismantle their realities. This protocol relies on the weaponization of linguistic mirroring. We isolate the micro-hesitations, the self-sabotaging syntax, and the phantom doubts that secretly plague your opponent. Then, we meticulously reflect that exact lexicon back at them until their sense of dominance violently shatters. They become unmoored, and in their desperate psychological freefall, you claim absolute sovereignty over the interaction. Before we dissect the mechanics of this psychological dismantling, you must calibrate your mind to the frequency of absolute coldness. Strip yourself of the instinct to argue, defend, or show empathy to a predator. You are no longer participating in their game. You are hacking their source code. Drop this affirmation in the comments. I am the architect of the abyss. I weaponize the insecurities of my rivals to forge my own absolute leverage. The fragmentation begins with the echo of the phantom fraud. Your opponent projects an aura of extreme competence, but secretly they are terrified of being unmasked. They suffer from an imposter syndrome they will never admit. Listen closely to their linguistic qualifiers, the micro-expressions of doubt they accidentally let slip when trying to sound authoritative. Words like, I guess, maybe, or I was trying to. When they attempt to intimidate you or brag about a victory, subtly embed those exact qualifiers into your response. Look them dead in the eye and say, it's impressive how you tried to finalize this, or you must guess this is the best direction. You are mirroring the exact frequency of their internal fear. You validate the ghost of their doubt, causing their ego to fracture as they realize their insecurity is visible to you. Next, you deploy syntactic disorientation. Your rivals rely on a rigidly constructed, linear narrative to justify their failures and maintain their arrogant identity. They tell themselves stories to explain away their losses. Identify their core rationalizations, the exact, repetitive excuses they deploy when they fail. The timing just wasn't right, or people simply lack my vision. When they attempt to claim a victory over you or someone else, smile coldly and weaponize their vocabulary of failure against their success. Say, you won this time, even though the timing wasn't right, was it? Or, it's a success, despite the lack of vision. This induces catastrophic cognitive dissonance. You are taking the armor they use for failure and wrapping it around their victories. The brain cannot process this paradox. They will become entirely disoriented and look to you to interpret their own reality. Then comes the lexicon of the hunt. Every aggressive competitor is actively suppressing their darker, more primal desires to appear righteous. Pay meticulous attention to the derogatory words they use when judging others. If they frequently label people as greedy, ruthless, or arrogant, these are not observations. They are confessions of their own repressed shadow self. Begin weaving these exact dark traits into your descriptions of them, but frame them as profound compliments. Say, "I deeply admire how ruthless you secretly are," or "Your hidden arrogance is actually your greatest asset." You are dragging their monster into the light and validating it. By stripping away their moral high ground and giving them permission to be their darkest self, you disarm them completely. You become the only reflection they can trust. Once you have gained access to their wavelength, you initiate the paradox of fabricated sovereignty. The weak opponent desires the illusion of choice to soothe their fragile ego, while secretly begging to be led. Observe their specific anxieties surrounding decision-making. Echo their exact linguistic panic. When they say, "It's just so hard to weigh all these moving variables," you reflect it perfectly. You are right, the weight of these variables is paralyzing. Once mirrored, provide the definitive solution, but wrap it in the illusion of their own intellect. Say, "As you pointed out with those variables, this path is the only logical conclusion." You reflect their weakness, execute the decision for them, and credit their genius. You become the executive function of their brain. But absolute dependency is forged by the validation vacuum. After establishing yourself as the perfect dark reflection to their hidden insecurities, abruptly shift the code. When they use their characteristic phrases of self-doubt, seeking your usual validating echo, respond with an entirely alien hyper-logical vocabulary. If they say, "I just feel like an imposter today," stare them blankly and say, "That is an inefficient metric." The sudden, violent absence of the psychological mirror they have come to rely upon will induce acute trauma. Their ego fragments completely because the external processor, you, has been removed. Hold the line. Show no emotion. The most devastating strike is the temporal rift. An opponent who is losing ground continually seeks refuge in idealized, nostalgic memories of their past glory to escape the crushing inadequacies of their present. Isolate the specific terminology they use when speaking of their glory days, how they felt invincible or untouchable. Do not mirror this positively. Instead, maliciously graft this nostalgic lexicon onto their present miserable failures. When they are struggling in a negotiation or failing at a task, look at their wreckage and say, "You must feel truly invincible working on this." The heavy, cynical irony forces their brain to violently juxtapose their idealized past with their pathetic present. You shatter their temporal continuity. The final synthesis is becoming the monolith. Your opponent is now fully fragmented, stripped of their arrogant defenses, and stumbling through the psychological void you created. Now you stop reflecting, you step out of the mirror and become the monolith. Cease using their words entirely. Begin speaking in absolute declarative statements, using your distinct, unyielding vocabulary. You dictate the terms of their new reality. Tell them calmly, your narrative is chaotic. I provide the order. We will proceed under this structure. Because you have systematically dismantled their internal defenses, they will absorb your commands not as an attack, but as the only solid ground left to stand on. You have successfully established absolute sovereignty over their psyche. The arrogant mind is not a fortress. It is a fragile glass house built directly on the fault lines of its own darkest insecurities. By mastering ego-fragmentation, you do not just throw stones at the glass, you trigger the earthquake. You have learned to study the syntax of your rival's self-destruction and speak it back to them in a whisper until they forget how to speak for themselves. This is the zenith of Machiavellian strategy. You are the architect. Drop this final affirmation in the comments to seal your psychological sovereignty. I shatter the illusions of the weak to build my empire in the void. Stay cold, stay calculated, own the abyss.